So before I start this episode, I'd like to say that I'm going to change up the formula a little bit. I'm going to make it much more random. I wanted to do something that was like a definitive show that you could look at, and I started realizing that as I was going over YouTube and looking on forums and looking on the internet in general, if you got 100 fish keepers and you all asked them, what's the secret to fish keeping, you would get 101 different answers. So basically, I'm just going to do videos on what works for me, and hopefully that helps people and how they do their aquariums. So hopefully you like the new little format, and let's get on with the show. Fish bump. Hello fellow fish freaks, Wise Guy here for Fish Behind Glass. In this episode I'm going to be going over how I put together my first quarantine tank, how to do it on the cheap, how I set up the aeration system for my 10 gallon and my 20 gallon long, and I'll also be asking, do you have algae in your tank, and is it in there by design, or do you just not want any algae in your tank at all? And we'll go over that question later on in the show. So here we go. Let's start off with how to do a quarantine tank on the cheap. Fish pump. Okay, so I've been thinking about doing this for a little while here, and kind of what urged me on to really get it going was the fact that last week it seemed like the theme was quarantine tanks on YouTube and Facebook. So basically, I saw videos where it's either people telling you you have to have a quarantine tank, or people who didn't have quarantine tanks for years in the hobby and finally started doing it because they had a massive fish die-off. So I think it's probably a really good idea to have a quarantine tank, so I decided to make one myself and see how I could do it on the cheap. So I actually started a little while ago before it seemed like it was really focused last week. So I had already bought some substrate, and I already had a 5 gallon tank that I could use because I switched out my 5 gallon and bought a 10 gallon. And I got a little heating pad so that it won't take up too much space in the tank. And I was able to go on Amazon and get a Whisper 40 air pump, sponge filter that hopefully doesn't take up too much space, and 25 feet of air tubing. And that all cost me on Prime, Amazon, $17. Not a bad deal, really, when you could pay $17 for this by itself easy. So that's that, and the components basically, and then I'll just show it kind of putting it together, and then I'll see how it works out. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my tank. And I even went on the cheap with the little, I don't know if you can see it there. So it's just a sticker thermometer. Okay, so I'm going to start by cleaning the rocks. I found a simple little way to do this without making a huge mess. I'm going to get a fork. Stab it a few times. And open up the water. Now hold on to it so it doesn't, you don't want to dump rock into your garbage disposal, so be careful because that can ruin your garbage disposal. So you just let it drain out. Okay. So I've already placed the heat pad down in the bottom here. And this comes a nice little attachment. Oops. Get that in place. Rocks. Okay, let's get this bad boy. Sure that little lid's gonna work here. Get right behind that. Okay, so I got some big rocks here that I want to set in here just to create a little bit more surface area for the tank, more bacteria to grow on. I don't get it. I live in the high desert. Today, it was a little bit cooler. It was 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And this has got to be one of the driest spots in the United States. And I've got this river rock strewn all through my yard. I can dig out there and pull this stuff out. I don't know where it comes from, but most of my rocks I've gotten off my own little quarter-acre property. Now, one of the things that you might notice is I don't really have enough room there to really dump stuff in there. So I'm going to come up with a little thing that I can rig up, and it should be pretty cheap and easy too. So I'm going to cut up a soda bottle. Doesn't have to be pretty. And I clean this out really good. And I should be able to just dump it in like that. So give that a try. That actually worked pretty good. Okay, so when I bought my 10 gallon, they gave me a free little sample of water conditioner. So I'm just going to take this whole thing and dump it all in here. I'm not going to be putting fish in here for probably at least 2 weeks. And this will get the whole thing going, you know, because I'm going to be cycling this one from scratch. And so we'll we'll see how that goes. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to remove this one because it's a Whisper 10. The one that I got for that deal, I had to get a Whisper 40. So what my plan is for that is to hook this one up and it will do the air for this tank and that tank. And then this smaller air pump can do the air for this one. I'm going to use the old pump for that one to help out with my kids' beta fish. A little something to break up the surface of the water in that one. So, let's see here. Go. Low-tech quarantine tank on the cheap. Okay, so I've removed all this from this here. So now I got 2 pumps that can run 3 tanks. Gives me an extra pump that I can use in my son's tank. Okay, so quick little review. This is the pump that I had. It now pumps for this tank and does that bad boy there. So I'm cycling that tank. And then this one here I set up to, I put in a splitter here. This one goes off to that tank. And this one goes to this tank. Yeah, I just made sure that I put a valve on, and that just makes it so that you can control the pressure between the two, and so it's set up to where it controls the one that goes to the 10-gallon, and then that's how I adjusted it to make it so they both come out pretty good. Freeballing it. So I want to finish out on a little segment about algae. I was watching Glenn Hawkins' YouTube channel, and he had a little piece of driftwood with a lot of algae growing on it. Nowhere else, just on that driftwood. And it actually looked pretty nice on there. The same thing, I was watching Jan Tropical, and he's got a bunch of stone that has algae growing in it, and it actually looks pretty cool on there. So I was wondering, does anybody else ever leave algae in their tank and say, yeah, that's okay, it actually looks cool in the tank? I realize probably some people are like, no way, I don't want that stuff in there whatsoever. And I get that. And so I do have it growing in this tank on this rock over here. So as we finish out here, I'll show some video of that rock and a little bit of this tank here, and I'll see you guys around on the next Fish Behind Glass. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, please leave a comment, ask questions. I love to answer questions if I can. I'll see you guys next time. Fish Bump.